mentioned, of course, working with Batman, and one of the things about this game is you kind of almost get like a mentor superhero at the beginning, and you can kind of go along. I mean, I know personally I will definitely choose Batman because I'm a huge fan, and Hush storyline ruled, man.
Joker, man.
Yeah.
Mark Hamill's voice, it's
is
awesome.
crazy.
It's awesome to hear him mentoring you through. But
yeah, and especially since Mark's mentoring you to blow up cop cars, right? It's a different kind of mentor altogether, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, I definitely know who my villain's going to be then, but I mean, one of the interesting things about these heroes is that there's a strong customization feature, but Batman doesn't use guns. So if you want to use a pistol or a laser gun or something, will that be taken away because you're following Batman and Batman doesn't do that stuff?
Wow. That is a good question. I think it really comes down to what the fiction is within the comic book universe and what we want to give the players in terms of variety and freedom. So I think that would probably be handcuffing him too much. I mean, certainly as a hero, you're not going to go around and kill people, and Batman's not going to order to kill people. But if you use a gun and you shoot people and wound them so that they fall to the ground and can't escape running, I think he would condone that. So I think those are the kinds of things, and all the action in the game is, again, done in sort of a hyper-realistic way. So, it's not a game where you're going to do headshots and see blood splatter, that kind of thing. So even if you go gun-based, it's done in a kind of very traditional superhero style, and you're taking people down and you're inflicting damage, but it's not that kind of damage. It's not depicted that way, and it's not in the game that way. So, the short answer is yes to your question.
And I think it's really important to note that while he's mentoring, he's also marshaling forces against all of Brainiac, right? So he doesn't have time necessarily to, you're not his sidekick, right? Robin is there, right? Huntress and all the rest in his extended Bat family, they're still, the core of his concern. But he's got all of these other people to mentor, but he's doing it in much more in the, hey, here are the values I'm after, here are the enemies I face, here are the tactics I want you to know. But he's got tons of them, right? I mean, it's going to take a lot to face off Brainiac, so it's not quite that, laser control on that sort of thing.
He'll give you the bat shark repellent, right? Yes, instant classic, love it. But I mean, there's so much to go into, but I guess you touched on the Brainiac. Talk a little bit about the plot and how you've got alternate universes and you got a future Lex Luthor coming back and telling the heroes, this is what's going on, you guys better shape up.
You want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I don't want to give too much away, but I think an important decision was made early on with the entire team, which was, do we acknowledge the fact that all these characters show up one day, that all these new characters and villains, these new heroes and villains are created and show up in the DC universe, or do we just sort of accept it as that's the way it has always been and that's how you start the game? And I think to Sony's credit, they really decided that no, it's preposterous that way, and it's better if we actually have a reason for all these heroes and villains to be spawning, and for people to have their character be integral to the storyline that leads to the end game. Well, one of the end games that we establish in the overall game, and I think it's a great way of doing it because, again, it builds on this whole fiction of you're creating a hero and you're entering the DC universe. You're not just a guy that's showing up and doing stuff in the DC universe. You're actually tied into the major storyline of the DC universe as depicted in this game.
Well, and of course, Brainiac's probably sort of the best villain even for villains, right? I mean, he is just himself, cares about that, and everything else doesn't matter. So that also gave us a really great hook for why villains would be fighting, right, in the same thing. And so we have that movie, Who Do You Trust? And it shows what happens if heroes and villains fight each other instead of facing Brainiac. Now in the game, the players are going to be there day one starting going, hey, what are we going to do about it and how is it going to be different? And that's a great story to hand over to players and see how they go through it.
Guys, I really want to thank you for your time today. It's, again, DCU Online, PS3 and PC. You'll be out early 2011, correct?
Yeah, make sure to actually pre-order because that's how you play as Batman and that's how you get into beta. So that's an awful lot to do, so make sure you do it.
I know, we didn't even get a chance to talk about P versus P. It's just, such little time and so much content. Guys, I really want to thank you again for your time, all right? So there you have it, folks. My interview of Jim Lee and Chris Ko for DCU Online. Only got a few minutes with them. They had to run. I was one of their last interviews, much like they were my last interview. So I really appreciate their time. Before they were able to run out the door, though, I did get one more question in off camera. And that is, for anybody who's been following this project, is why another delay? It was originally supposed to come out in November 2010. Now it's been pushed back to Q1 2011. And Jim Lee very plainly stated, we're in testing right now. We got a lot of these guys who are working on the early stages, which has allowed us to go and take a look at the later stages of the game, and we realize that the game needs a little more polish still, especially in the later stages. And after spending 4 years on this project, what's another few months? A fair answer, an honest answer, and hopefully it won't be delayed any longer. Like he said, it has been being worked on since 2006. You know, I've been previewing it for 3 years in a row now, and still haven't seen a final product. But hopefully this will be the last delay, and I want to thank Jim Lee for answering the question as honestly as he did. So for Classic Game Room, classicgameroom.com, and of course CGR Undertow, I'm Ray Carcillo.